What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be getting into my final edition of the January Bracketology. This is January 30th. The next Bracketology that's going to be coming out is going to be in February. It's crazy. We are getting into this. We're getting to the meat of things of conference play, almost to March, 1 month away from that. We'll soon get the AP poll of like the top 4 seeds or whatever you call that, the voters on that. So we'll see what happens with that, with the top 4 seeds of each region. As of what we're standing, if that makes sense, that should come somewhere in the middle of February, I believe, like a month from the actual selection Sunday. I believe it is on us on a Sunday. So anyway, let's look at this bracket watch here. Top of a seed remains Purdue, just staying there. Purdue continues to really just dominate the Big Ten. They're going to have some bigger games, though, coming up down there. They haven't played the hardest teams. I'm excited to see when they play Wisconsin this year. Some of those Illinois they've played and beat, but Illinois is still a good team. But the Wisconsin-Purdue matchup is going to be a big one for that conference. And then the first team out, Villanova, now out of the field, just have kind of not looked impressive in Big East play so far. They didn't look good against Marquette, I believe, who they lost to, and lost to St. John's a previous game. But then we have the last team in Boise State. They've been an impressive team out in the Mountain West, almost beating Utah State. Went into overtime on that one. But here, if we look at the bubble here, last 4 byes, Memphis is in this list. That is crazy to me that the Memphis Tigers are all the way down here. This team was a 4 seed not too long ago in the middle of January. They have completely fallen off a cliff in the AAC play. Not good for Memphis so far. Then we have Texas, almost beating Houston last night. That game went into overtime. Just barely, or did they beat Houston? Yeah, Houston just barely won. That's what I thought. For whatever reason, that slipped my mind. But yeah, Houston won that one. Then Providence and Texas A&M. Also, Texas A&M team has been frustrating this year out of the SEC. Then the last for them, we do have Nebraska, Seton Hall, Colorado, and then Boise State. First round, we have Villanova, Cincinnati, struggling in that Big 12 play. Then we have Washington State coming out of nowhere there, out of the Pac-12. I believe they beat Oregon, I want to say, or someone like that. Or no, Utah. They beat Utah this on Friday, I believe. Then we have Gonzaga. And then the next route, we do have Oregon, Kansas State, Florida, and then Butler. If you look at this bracket here, though, new to the field here is going to be Southern and NC Central. Then we have Green Bay dropping down to the 16 seed. Nebraska going to be dropping to the play-in, as well as Boise State, and as well as Colorado and Seton Hall dropping down to that play-in. In the Midwest region, obviously Purdue, the top overall seed right there. Memphis down to the 9. Baylor going to be dropping down to the 5 seed. Tough loss in overtime, or I think it was double overtime. A triple-digit score game between Baylor and TCU. Cornell's going to be new to the field at that 12 seed. Auburn dropping out of the 4, lost to Mississippi State this weekend. Grand Canyon going to be jumping up to the 11. Kansas now has lost, I believe, 3 of the last 5 games or something like that. That's not good for the Jayhawks. They just lost to Iowa State on the road. So Kansas is now down to a 3 seed. That does not look like the dominant Kansas team that we are accustomed to seeing right there. Then Trexel is going to be dropping out of the 14. Northwestern jumping up to the 7 there, continuing to be red hot at this point. And then we have Texas A&M dropping down to the 10. Then Marquette jumping up to the 2 seed after Marquette had a good game. But moving on, in the East region, we have UConn as that number 1 seed. South Carolina going to be jumping up to the 8 seed. TCU jumping up to the 9 seed, as we mentioned, beating Kansas. San Diego State going to be jumping up to the 5. Duke jump up to the 4 seed. Clemson's going to be climbing up to the 6. Alabama continues to win here, jumping up to the 3. Texas Tech jumping up to the 7, and then St. Mary's jumping up to the 10 seed right there. In this region, we have Houston as the number 1 seed right there. South Dakota State going to be falling to the 16 seed. Mississippi State jumping up to the 8, and then Utah dropping out of the 9. Dayton took a tough loss in the A-10 right there. They're going to be falling to a 5 seed. Oklahoma going to be dropping down to the 6 seed after losing to, forgot who it was against. I do not remember who it was against right there. But someone, they lost to someone, or Texas Tech, that's who it was. Texas Tech right there. And then we have Indiana State going to be climbing to the 11th seed. Good team there. Providence jumping to the 10, and then Colgate into the field at a 15. In this West region, we have North Carolina as the 1 seed there. Michigan State going to be dropping down to the 8 seed. I had them in my Final Four in the last video. Ole Miss going to be new to the field as a 9 seed. UC Irvine new to the field as a 13 seed. Iowa State going to be jumping up to the 3 seed. New Mexico jumping up to the 7 seed. Then we have Texas jumping up to the 10, despite losing both games in their previous games. I actually went to the Texas BYU game. Good game there, and then they almost beat Houston. So even with 2 losses in that Big 12, you can take 2 losses and climb up just like that right there. And then we have Eastern Washington going to be dropping down to the 15. Okay, but let's get into this tournament here. Going to be starting out, let's start out over here. Boise State versus Nebraska. I am going to have to go with Nebraska in this game. It's a tight one. Could see it going either way, but at this point in time, I'm leaning towards Nebraska in that matchup. Then NC Central, I do think, would beat Southern. Colorado, Seton Hall. I do think I would give the edge to Seton Hall, but another tight battle. Then Central Connecticut, I think, would hold off Green Bay in that one. Okay, Purdue versus NC Central. Give me Purdue to win that one. And then the falling Memphis team, I do think I would go with St. John's to win that game. And then Baylor, I think, would pull off the win over Cornell. Auburn, I think, holds off Akron. Utah State, Grand Canyon, 6 versus an 11 seed. This is a tough one, guys. I really like Grand Canyon, but Utah State's been a red-hot team. I think I'm just going to, never mind. Man. It's tough, man. I think I'm going to give Utah State some love here, though. I'm going to give Utah State the just barely edge over Grand Canyon, but that one's a tough one. Kansas, I do think, beats Drexel. Northwestern, I think, will hold off Texas A&M, and then Marquette beats Quinnipiac. So all chalk, even from the 8 and 9 seed and 7 and 10s in that region right there. Almost with the Grand Canyon, but didn't quite do it. In this region, North Carolina, I do think, beats Central Connecticut. Michigan State, I think, would hold off Ole Miss. BYU, I think, would beat McNeese State. Kentucky, I think, would beat UC Irvine. Florida Atlantic, Nebraska, I think I would hand the edge to Florida Atlantic in that game. And then Iowa State, I was thinking of going the upset with Vermont. I could see that happening. Vermont's a really good 14 seed, but I am going to have to go with Iowa State the way they looked. And then New Mexico, Texas. We're going to have to give an upset there. Let's go with Texas to pull off the win. Then Arizona, I think, will hold off Eastern Washington. This region here, UConn, Eastern Kentucky. Give me UConn. South Carolina, TCU. I am going to have to go with the slight 9/8 right there. San Diego State, I think, would hold off Richmond. Duke, I think, would beat Charlotte. Then I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with Seton Hall to beat Clemson. Also spelled Clemson wrong there, but just still not a believer in Clemson. They're probably my, just knowing about it, there's only 3 ACC teams. I just don't think this Clemson team's legit in the ACC. There's only 3 of those teams in this tournament right now, which is nuts. It's been like that way for the past few years, but Anyway, I do like that Big East team in Seton Hall. And then Alabama, I do think, would pull off the win over High Point. St. Mary's, Texas Tech is a good matchup. But I think I'm going to go with the 7-seeded Texas Tech team in that game. And then Wisconsin, I think, would hold off Sam Houston State. So, honestly, besides really Texas and Seton Hall, there's been really no upsets to speak of. Let's see if it could change in this region. Houston, I do think, would pull off the win over South Dakota State. Mississippi State, Utah, I am going to go with the 8-seeded Mississippi State, the way they looked in their previous game. Dayton, I think, even with the tough loss, I think they are a better team than Appalachian State. Give me them to win that one. Illinois, I think, would pull off the win over Samford. And then I'm going to go with an upset pick here. I'm going to go with Indiana State to beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma's looked not great, honestly, the previous few games, losing to Texas Tech. It's still a good Oklahoma team, don't get me wrong, but I just don't have the biggest amount of faith in that team. So give me Indiana State to pull off the upset. And then Creighton, I do think, would hold off Morehead State. Colorado State, Providence. I am going to go with the 7-seeded Colorado State. They lost again this week, but I'm still going to give them credit. And then give me Tennessee to beat Colgate. Okay. So, Purdue versus St. John's. Give me Purdue. Tough St. John's team, though I could see an upset. Then Baylor, Auburn. I think I'm going to go with the 5-seeded Baylor the way Auburn's looked in the previous few games. I believe this is a Final Four matchup in one of my bracketologies. But they meet in the round of 32. Give me Baylor to pull off the win. Then I'm going to go with Utah State to beat Kansas, honestly. Surviving versus Grand Canyon. I think with the way Kansas has been looking, they are prone to an upset there. So give me Utah State as the 6th seed pulling off the win. And then Marquette, I did have them get eliminated early last time. I do think they would be able to hold off Northwestern in that matchup, though. Okay, down here, North Carolina, Michigan State. Give me North Carolina. Kentucky, BYU. As a BYU fan, I really want to go with my Cougars, but Kentucky, they're really talented. I would have to go with Kentucky in that matchup. Iowa State, I do think, would beat Florida Atlantic. And then I'm going to go with the 10/7 here. Double-digit C, Texas. Looking good in this Big 12 play right now. I think they could pull off the upset over an inconsistent Arizona team right there. In this region, UConn, TCU, give me Connecticut to pull off the win. Duke, San Diego State, good matchup. I'm going to go with the Duke Blue Devils, though, just barely in that matchup. That's a good one. Seton Hall, Alabama, give me the 3-seeded Alabama. And then Wisconsin, Texas Tech. I'm going to go with Wisconsin. So we do have a chalk region right there. Moving on. Houston, Mississippi State. Give me Houston in that matchup. Dayton, although I could see an 8-seeded upset there, but I am going to go with Houston. Dayton, Illinois. You know, Dayton just lost. Illinois is a good team out of the Big Ten. Give me them to pull off the win. Indiana State, Creighton. Could we see Indiana State maybe making a run to the Sweet 16? I'm a big believer in that Indiana State team. You know, why not do it? Creighton, don't get me wrong. You guys are a really good team, but I do like Indiana State in that matchup. It's a really good Indiana State team. And Creighton, they can be a little bit inconsistent at times as well. So give me Indiana State. And then Tennessee, I do think would be able to beat Colorado State in that matchup. All right. Purdue, Baylor, 1-seeded team versus a 5-seed. I am going to go with Purdue in that matchup. And then Utah State, Marquette. I'm going to give the 6-seeded Utah State a run to the Elite Eight. Like these matches for them. Marquette's a team that I'm not too high on either. Utah State, a good team there. Give me them to move on to the Elite Eight. And then North Carolina, Kentucky would have to go with North Carolina in that battle of the blue blood schools. And then we have a Big 12 battle between Iowa State and Texas. I do think that Texas's run comes to an end. Give me 3-seeded Iowa State to move on to the Elite Eight. All right, UConn Duke, 1-seeded team versus a 4-seed. Give me UConn, though. They're just playing too good basketball at this point for me to pick against them. I think they would win that one. And then Alabama, Wisconsin, 3-seeded team versus a 2-seed. I am going to go with Alabama out of the SEC, gaining back my trust after a tough performance versus Tennessee. Give me them to pull off the win over Wisconsin. All right, Houston, Illinois, 1-seeded team versus a 4-seeded team. Give me Illinois pulling off the upset. Like Illinois out of the Big Ten, good team. Houston, really good team as well. It's tough to pick against them. They've only lost 2 games this year for a reason, but games like Texas, this team can get cold at times. I think that could happen in that one. So give me Illinois to pull off the win. And then Indiana State, Tennessee, 11-seed versus a 2-seed. Can Indiana State shock the world and beat a team like Tennessee? Unfortunately, I don't see that one happening that time. Give me Tennessee to beat Indiana State. All right. Crazy here. Purdue, Utah State. I was debating going with an upset in Grand Canyon, and here is Utah State in the Elite Eight getting that one. But I do think Purdue would end Utah State's run right there. Give me Purdue. North Carolina, Iowa State, 1-seed versus a 3-seed. I do have to go with North Carolina in that region. It's just too tough right now. They're playing good basketball. And then we have UConn, Alabama, 1 versus a 3-seed. Unfortunately, I am going to have to go with another 1-seed here at UConn pulling off the win. And I just got to say, these 3 number 1 seeds right now, I just have a tough time picking against. Even Houston, the 3rd 1 seed there in this region, is really freaking good as well right now. It's just, I don't see at this point in time these 1 seeds losing, especially the way UConn and Purdue are playing, and North Carolina hasn't lost a game in like a month or so. These teams are just playing too good. So that's why consistently the past 2 or 3 bracketologies have had 3 number 1 seeds at this point. And then Illinois, Tennessee, 4 versus a 2 seed. I am going to have to go with Tennessee pulling off the win to the Final Four. It's also crazy. I've just never been a Tennessee believer this season, but they've changed my mind. They've played good basketball. I've got to give them credit. Give me them to pull off to the Final Four. So then, kind of chalky. Final Four, 3 1 seeds and 1 2 seed. I know, but it's just how it comes out here. Purdue versus North Carolina, 1 seed versus a 1 seed. I am going to flip this one up and go with Purdue this time. Last time I went with North Carolina. Give me Purdue to move on to the Final Four, where they will meet either UConn or Tennessee, 1 seed versus a 2 seed. I do think that the 1 seeds prevail there. Give me UConn. So we do have a battle of the top 1 seeds. UConn trying to go back-to-back national championships. Not this time, though. I think Zach Edey and Purdue bounces back from their tournament woes and wins it all. Give me Purdue to win the national championship game. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your predictions. Anyway, guys, peace out.